Hey there, Gabe here, and I have another Warhammer Fantasy Battle Report for you. 2,500 points worth of Lizardmen versus Tomb Kings. I'm going to be playing my Lizardmen army, and my buddy John is going to be playing his Tomb Kings army. Hope you enjoy. The scenario is Battle for the Pass, and the terrain on the board is two mysterious forests that we never go into, an ordinary hill, and a Acropolis of Heroes. Here's my deployment. I have an Ancient Stegodon, 10 Skink Skirmishers, 20 Saurus Warriors with the Scarvet that has the Ogre Blade and the Enchanted Shield. I then have 10 more Skink Skirmishers, 25 Temple Guard with the Slan Mage Priest, which is the General and BSB, and he has the Channeling Staff, and his abilities are the Becoming Cognition, the Harmonic Convergence, and Wandering Deliberation. I then have 10 more Skink Skirmishers, 20 Saurus Warriors with Golrock and a Skink Priest that has the Dispel Scroll and Seed of Birth. And then I have 10 more Skink Skirmishers and another Ancient Stegodon. My opponent has 10 Skeleton Horse Archers. Pretty sure both units of his Skeleton Horse Archers are scouts. So he couldn't find anywhere to put them behind me, so he just put them right in front. I don't know how many Tomb Guard he has, but I think it's like 25 or 30. And then he has a Lich High Priest or High Lich Priest, a Necrotect, and a Tomb King in there. And then he has 5 Skeleton Chariots, a Hyro Titan, 3 Necropolis Knights, a Necro Sphinx, and a Casket of Souls. I don't have a picture of the spells we had, but my Slan had the 8 signature spells from the rulebook, and the Skink Priest had Amber Spear. Sorry for my voice. Starting to lose it today. I apologize about that. My opponent had Jafa's Incantation of Cursed Blades, which gives a unit Killing Blow, and I think a unit that has Killing Blow gets Killing Blow on 5 and 6s. And then he has Petra's Incantation of Righteous Smiting, which gives extra shots and extra attacks. Neuro's Incantation of Protection, which gives a unit a 5+ ward save. Then he has Sakmet's Incantation of Skullstorm, which is a template that causes a Strength 4 hit to all models passed over. His lore attribute gives a unit D3+1 wounds back, and I think the construct rule for his Necrosphinx and Hyro Titan only allow 1 wound per back. He also has Spirit Leech on the Hyro Titan and a Bound spell on the Casket of Souls. Alright, Two Kings get turn number 1. His movement, he just moves toward me. Tomb King's magic phase is 9 dice to 6. He casts Righteous Smiting on these archers, which gives them multi-shots. I let it go through. He then casts the protection spell on the other archers to give them a 5+ ward save. Pretty sure I failed the dispel. He fails with the casket. I think he tried to cast it on the my Temple Guard, and he failed the cast. And then he threw the Skullstorm template, which I failed the dispel, and he aims it right through the upper total skinks, and they're not there anymore. And he killed 5 skinks, and it actually made it onto the Saurus. I made my Lookout Sir with Golrock, and it just kills 1 Saurus Warrior. So that's what he did in his magic phase. In the shooting phase, both units of archers fired at the middle skinks and do all 10 wounds and just completely obliterate them. Yeah, nice knowing you, Skinks. He then fires with his chariot at the Skinks beside the ancient Stegodon and do 3 wounds. Um, I don't think they panicked in the magic phase, but they do panic here, and they flee right in front of the Saurus warriors. So yeah, stupid Skinks blocking the warriors now. It's pretty great. Lizardmen turn 1. My only charge is the Stegodon into the archers. Not sure if the Tomb Kings can stand and shoot because my opponent wasn't doing that all game, so not sure. Yeah, but they go in, and I don't think they can flee either. Yeah, the rest of my movement, the Saurus warriors on the bottom right move over to get away from the Skullstorm and the 2 Skinks that are in their way. And everything else just moves up. My Skinks fail to rally, and they flee into the Skullstorm and die. So yeah, I don't really feel bad because they were being a pain in the butt and sitting right in front of my Saurus warriors. So yeah, sayonara. The Skullstorm scatters, or I think on the misfire, yeah, on the scatter roll it misfires and closes in on itself, so that's gone. My magic phase is 10 dice to 6. I cast Melkoffs on his chariots. He lets it go through. I then cast Searing Doom on his Necropolis Knights and do 2 wounds. He also let that go through. I then cast Spirit Leech irresistibly on his Tomb King and failed to do anything. I think he rolled really high and I just didn't roll very well. I think his leadership is 10 and mine's 9, so yeah, I needed to score at least 2 higher than him to do anything, but yeah, I didn't do anything. I rolled an 8 on the miscast table and do a wound to the Skink Priest. And lose my last 2 power dice. In the shooting phase, the Skinks do 1 wound to the Horse Archers, and the other Skinks don't do any wounds to the Necropolis Knights. I don't think my other Stegodon, I think he marched so he couldn't shoot. I don't have a picture for the close combat, but I get through 4 wounds on impact hits, and then 1 more wound with Skinks in combat. He didn't land any wounds on me. I won by like 5 or 6, and he crumbles completely, and I overrun into the Necro Sphinx. So I'm hoping I can clear up that side of the board and bring the pain. 2 Kings turn 2. I didn't get a picture of his movement before he did his close combats. His chariots charged the skinks that were right beside the building. I stand and shoot and do 1 wound. His Necropolis Knights turn to look at the Skinks and the Stegodon on the left side of the board. His archers turn toward the Temple Guard, and the Tomb Guard slide closer to the Necro Sphinx, I believe. The magic phase is 11 to 5. My opponent cast Shem's Burning Gaze on the Temple Guard and does no wounds. Not sure where he got that spell. I don't know if it was a bound spell that he didn't tell me about or something. I don't know what happened. I let it go through, and I don't think it does anything. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. He then cast the protection spell on the Sphinx, and I use the Dispel Scroll. I don't want him having a 5 or 4 up ward save. Trying to kill that thing with the Stegodon. He then cast Cursed Blades on the chariots, giving them Killing Blow. I let that go through. He then cast Righteous Smiting on something. I'm not sure what he cast that on. I think I used the Dispel dice to Dispel, but I'm not sure. The magic phase was fuzzy for me this time. Can't remember what happened other at the end. Yeah, so in the shooting phase, his archers shoot at the temple guard and do no wounds. In close combat, I do 1 wound on impact hits, and I get through 2 wounds with the skinks. But he turns around after his hits, and yeah, punks the Stegodon with heroic killing blow. So sad. This is like the second or third time he's done this to me. Heroic killing blow my Stegodon, like in the first turn or whatever, second turn. It's rough. Yeah. Heroic killing blow sucks. Yeah, so kills the Stegodon and reforms, I believe. In this close combat, the skinks do nothing to him, and then he gets 9 wounds on impact hits, I believe, and then he just finishes off the last skink. He overruns and comes up, I believe, an inch or two short of the warriors, which was really great for me because now I have a front and flank charge on those chariots with Saurus warriors and temple guards, so I was pretty happy about that. Lizardman turn 2, that's what I do. I charge the Saurus warriors into the front of the chariots and the temple guard into the side. This is probably going to be really good for me and really bad for him. The Saurus warriors on the right of the screen just move up, trying to get closer to the archers so I can get a good charge in next turn. The skinks move right in front of the Necropolis Knights, and the Stegodon moves, I think it's 6 inches, so it can still shoot as well. I was getting the skinks closer because if I march them and they're long range, they have the blowpipes, so I think I would need like 7s while I was shooting. So I'd need 6s and then 4 5s and 6s to even hit. So I'm not sure if you roll 6s and you need 7s if you get the wounds through because of poison, but I haven't heard anything about that. Let me know if you have heard anything about that. But yeah, I wanted to get him up in half range, so I only needed 6s to hit, but 6s to hit also auto wound because of the poison, so I was getting him up close. In my magic phase, it's 8 to 7. I cast Wissons on the Saurus warriors, and he failed the Dispel. I think I threw like 3 dice at it and just barely got it, but I think he tried to throw 2 dice and rolled 1 under mine. So pretty happy about that. Got Wisson's Wall form on the Saurus warriors in combat with the chariots, so they're going to be strength 5, toughness 5. So that'll help a lot. I then cast the juiced up amber spear on the Sphinx, and he dispels with his dice. Yeah, that was all my shooting, all my magic phase. In the shooting phase, I do 2 wounds to the Necropolis Knights with the Skinks and nothing with the Stegodon. In close combat, I do 4 wounds with the Saurus warriors and 5 wounds with the Temple Guard. Pretty sweet. I'm liking that. Taking some points away. Looking good for the Saurus warriors and the Temple Guard and the Lizardmen right now. Looking good. He does 1 wound back to me on the warriors. I win by like 14 or 15. I win by a lot, and I think he only had 1 chariot left over, and it crumbles. I reform. Tomb King's turn 3. His Necropolis Knights go into the Skinks. I stand. I think what I should have done here is fled. And then he would have had to redirect if he wanted to, and that would have been a really long charge for him to get in the Stegodon. And then on my turn, the Stegodon would have no problem getting into his knights. But I stood, and thinking about it now, I should have fled. But oh well, that happens. The rest of his movement, they just move up to kind of make sure that he owns this side of the board, which right now it's pretty even. But yeah, he's just making a new battle line for me to come at. In the magic phase, it's 9 dice to 5. He casts the Skull Storm really high. I let it go through because it was so high. It landed about halfway between the Tomb Guard and the Temple Guard, so I wasn't super worried about it there. He then cast the protection spell on the Sphinx, and I failed the dispel, so I think he's got a 5 or 4 to 4 save, and he gains a wound back. So the 3 wounds that I did, he's now gained one of them back, which is not very good for me. The casket goes off on the Stegodon, and he does no wounds. Now the casket's bound spell, I believe, makes you do a 3 dice leadership check, and you have to keep the highest. But the cold-blooded rule allows you to roll an extra die and take away the highest. So, or take away one of the highest. So that actually really worked out for me, and I rolled like a 1, a 2, a 2, and like, I don't know, 2 3s or something like that. So I was able to take one of them away and actually got my leadership perfect of a 7. So yeah, that really helped me out on that spell. He then casts Righteous Smiting on the Tomb Guard, giving them extra attacks. And in the shooting phase, he aims with his Horse Archers at the Sarce Warriors and does no wounds. The Necropolis Knights do all 10 wounds to the Skinks in combat. I do nothing to him. The Knights reform, so they're looking straight on to the Stegodon. Lizardmen turn 3. I charged my Stegodon into the Necropolis Knights. I think I needed an 8 or 9. It was pretty far, but I made it in, which was really good. I think the Stegodon's impact hits and its attack should be able to clear those guys right out of the board. And my Sarce Warriors at the top of the screen charge into his archers. And what I'm looking for here is to try to cut him down and crumble him, or completely kill him outright and overrun out of the arc of his tomb guard and his Sphinx. The magic phase. This is where the game turns in my opponent's favor. It was 9 dice to 6. I get Ice Shard Blizzard on the Tomb Guard, which he lets go. I then get Melkoff's on the Tomb Guard, which he lets, which he actually failed to dispel. So he's, I think it's only by, I think I cut his movement down by 1, I believe, with Malkoff's, and Ice Shard Blizzard, I think makes him reroll 6s or something like that. Then I cast Wissen's Wild Form on the Sarce and do it irresistibly. So it goes through, but now I have a miscast, and I roll a 4. Oh, damn. Yeah, this is it. This is where the game turns drastically. As you can see in the picture, with the huge round template, I'm pretty sure hit all of them and killed 20 Temple Guard. Strength 10, I think I rolled like 4 1s. Or something like that, or 5 1s, or it may not have touched everybody, but yeah, killed 20 Temple Guard. I then after that devastation, decide to roll a 3, and the slan gets sucked into the void. Ouch! Yeah, this was bad. I almost gave up right here, but I stuck in there, and I'm glad I did, because it was a really good game after this. So yeah, that's what happens in my magic phase. Pretty fantastic. In close combat, this is a better note. The Stegodon gets 3 wounds on impact hits, which, from all the wounds I did, I believe there was only one Sphinx, not Sphinx, I think there was only one Necropolis Knight left after impact hits. Maybe not, but I'm pretty sure there was only one guy left. Maybe there was 2. Actually, no. There was 2 left, and then the Skinks went to go, and they get 1 wound through, and so there was 1 left when he was able to attack. And then the Stegodon does 2 more wounds, and I think he only had one blip of health left, and he does no wounds back to me. So he crumbles his last wound or 2, and I reform. So I took those guys out in the first combat, which is awesome, and I didn't take any wounds for it either. In this combat, I do 7 wounds to him, and he does 1 wound back to me. He crumbles the last 3 wounds, I believe, because of all that combat res, and I overrun out of the charge arc of the Tomb Guard, but not out of the charge arc of the Sphinx. So we'll see what happens there. Tomb King's turn 4. Because of the game was nearing the end, I missed a bunch of pictures. So I explain a lot that happened in his turn in this picture. In his movement phase, he chose not to charge the Sphinx into Tharus because they still had Wissons on him, and I could have made way with Gorok, and he could have... I think he only had like 3 wounds left, so yeah, that would have been rough for him. Toughness 8, but if you roll any 6s, he's not going to have an armor save, and is only going to have a 5 or 4 up ward save, so he chose not to go into them. So he just moved up. You can't see it here, but he moved his Tomb Guard closer to my Saurus Warriors and the Temple Guard down here. And he just moved his Sphinx up as well, kind of on the right side of the Temple Guard. In his magic phase, it was 11 dice to 6. He cast the protection spell on the Sphinx again, and heals it again, and gives it a 4 up war save. So I think the Sphinx only has 1 wound taken off now, so it's almost fully healed, which is not looking good. He then casts Spirit Leech on my Skink Priest, which I dispel. He uses the casket and rolls double 6s, and does 1 wound to the Stegodon. We weren't sure what happened. It doesn't really say that the casket takes negative effect, or it just says it can't cast again this turn, but it only has 1 bound spell, and you can't put any more on it, so that was weird to me. I wasn't sure what that meant. Like, it couldn't cast the rest of the turn, but it only has 1 spell, and so yeah, it doesn't seem like double 6s have a negative effect for it. Oh well. He then cast the large Skull Storm irresistibly, so I couldn't stop it, and he sends it right through my Saurus Warriors, and does 7 wounds to the unit and 1 wound to the hero. So that really sucks. His miscast roll was a 7, and does 2 wounds to his unit and 1 wound to his Necrotect. There's no shooting and no close combat. In Lizardmen turn 4, I charge my Stegodon into the Hierotitan. Hoping that will be pretty nice. This is just a picture, I think, after combat. So that's why he has wound markers. Um, this is a picture where he moved, but we're not there yet because I didn't get to take pictures of my turn either. I reform with the Saurus Warrior at the Saurus Warriors at the top of the board with my movement. And then I move the remaining Temple Guard up to block the Tomb Guard so he couldn't get into my Saurus Warriors. Because now that the Slan is dead, the Temple Guard aren't as many points as my Saurus Warriors and the hero in there. So sacrificing the Temple Guard, and the way I place them, when he goes into him, he's not able to overrun into the Saurus Warriors. So I'm trying to save some points now by sacrificing some points. Because, I mean, he can magic my Temple Guard off the board now, so I'm just kind of giving them up for slaughter so I can save my Saurus Warriors. So that's all that happened in my movement phase. In the magic phase, it was 6 dice to 4. I throw all 6 dice at the Amber Spear and get it irresistibly and wound him, but he ward saves the wound, so I wasn't able to kill the Sphinx. I think I rolled a really high number, like 11 or 12 or 10 or something like that, on the miscast table and lose my wizard level, so he no longer knows Amber Spear and I have no more magic. In close combat, I don't get any wounds on impact hits, which really sucks. But I do get 3 wounds on him, and he does 1 wound back to me. I'm pretty sure he only crumbled by 1 because he's a construct of some sort. I don't know. I think he was supposed to, like, usually before the construct thing came into play, he would have lost by 2. Actually, should have lost by 4. He probably should have been dead there. I don't know. Tomb King's turn 5. He charges the Tomb Guard into the front of the Temple Guard, and he actually tried to go in with the Necro Sphinx as well, but charged. So I think he only went forward like 2 to 3 inches or something like that. In his magic phase, it was 5 dice to 3. He uses the Casket of Souls on the Saurus and do 1 wound. He then casts Righteous Smiting really high as a bubble on all his units, giving them extra attacks, and then healing 1 wound to the Hydro Titan and the Sphinx. I failed Dispel, and now the Sphinx is back to full health, and his Hydro Titan has another wound on it. He has no shooting. In close combat, he kills the 5 Temple Guard before I can do anything, and he reforms like so. We did look at it after he killed him, and if he did overrun, he wouldn't be able to clip the SAR, so he just goes in like that. Lizardmen turn 5. I had a choice here. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was trying to figure out how close it was and if it was realistic for me to go into the Tomb Guard with both units of Saurus Warriors. It would have been really hard to get into the rear with the Saurus Warriors at the top of the board. It would have been like, I think I would have needed a 10 to get in. So it was a 10 or 11 to get in. So it was long enough that I didn't want to take that chance and leave the other Saurus Warriors down there, because they would have died no matter what, because those Tomb Guard are pretty nasty. So I decided to charge my Saurus and Gorok into the Sphinx, and I decide to Swift Freeform, which I passed, and I passed my March block test and move out of the charge arc of the Tomb Guard. So they're actually safe for the rest of the game because his turn is turn 6, I believe. Yeah, so he won't be able to charge into those guys, so I was pretty happy about getting him out of the way and save those points. I have no magic, but I did roll for Winds of Magic and get to try to get rid of the larger Skull Storm that's behind my Saurus Warriors. I get 10 dice to his 4, and because I'm dispelling, I roll all 10 dice, and yeah, I get rid of the large Skull Storm. I leave the smaller one that is right next to his Tomb Guard, so maybe I can take his Tomb Guard down and maybe get into him on my last turn of 6. So, not sure how the template comes into effect. In combat, I do 1 wound to him, and he does 1 wound back to me. So we stick for another round. My skinks have been rolling like crazy in this combat. The skinks have been the only ones doing wounds, and he's just failing his armor saves and his ward saves, so I'm pretty happy. I've been rolling lots of 6s. And don't look at the top of the screen. That's what my buddy John felt about his performance in this close combat. In this close combat, I do 2 wounds to him, and he does 2 wounds back to me. But because of all the combat res, I had 2 ranks, standard bearer, I charge, I flank. Yeah, he crumbled the rest of the way. So I was really happy about that. That was a great combat for me. He was not happy because his 6 attacks pretty much whiffed on him. I think he actually got the 2 wounds from stomps, to be honest, from his thunder stomps, or he didn't get any wounds with his thunder stomps, and it went either way. His attacks did nothing, or his thunder stomps did nothing, but yeah, he got 2 wounds. I did 2 wounds on him, and he crumbled. So I reform. I don't have a picture for Tomb King's turn 6. All he did was reform his Tomb Guard to face the upper Saurus, so he could have a front charge. So I would have a front charge on him instead of like a rear. So he just reformed, or he was going to throw some magic at me. In his magic phase, he fails to cast. I think he was trying to do the bigger Skull Storm or something like that, but he fails to cast. He didn't have a lot of dice. I'm not sure how many there were, but yeah, he fails to cast whatever he was going after. So his magic phase goes over. The Skull Storm drifts onto his unit of Tomb Guard and actually do 3 wounds, I believe. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad I left that out there. In close combat, the Skinks do 1 more wound to him, and the Hyro Titan does nothing. I think both units here are down to 1 wound left, so hopefully we'll see what happens in the last turn to see who wins this combat. In my turn 6, I struggled here. I didn't know what to do because I didn't know how close the points were. I knew I was coming back, and I knew it was going to be really close, but I think I was still down some points. So I was thinking about either just moving away from his Tomb Guard so I wouldn't lose that unit and just see what the points looked like then. But because this was a friendly battle, I wanted to go down with a fight. So that's exactly what I do. I charge into the Tomb Guard with my Saurus Warriors. I don't have a magic phase anymore. So in close combat, the Tomb Guard. Oh, wait a second. Um, the Skull Storm scatters again, and it goes through his Tomb Guard and does 3 more wounds, and then goes through and does 1 or 2, no, it does 3 wounds to me, and it does 1 or 2 wounds to him. So yeah, that's what happened in the magic phase, was it scattered some more. In close combat, here I do the last wound to the Hyro Titan, which was pretty amazing. We both held each other up for like 3 turns, and he just wasn't rolling very well at all. I think it was both 4-ups for us with the Stegodons to wound. And then I think it was 4-ups, 5-ups, or something like that for the skinks. And the skink rolls is what I was actually getting. I was failing with the Stegodon, but getting all the wounds with the skinks, which I just kept laughing about. It was a good game. We had a really good fun time. Yeah, I love the Stegodons. They're amazing, especially the skinks. They always do all the work. In this close combat, Gorok kills his Necrotect, and then my Sars does 1 wound to his Lich High Priest, which I was really happy about that. Well, not so happy that it didn't kill him, but I did a wound, and I did kill one of his other heroes, so I'm getting points there. And my Saurus Warriors do 2 wounds to the unit. He rolls his attacks, and he kills Gorok with his Tomb King, and then does 6 wounds to the unit. I need Snake Eyes to stick, and I fail. He chases, and I get away. But we both go through, we overrun through the Skullstorm again, which does 3 wounds to my unit. And I think I have like 2 or 3 guys left after that. So my guys are still there, so I still have those points. And he runs through it as well, doing 3 more wounds to his unit. And it wounds the High Priest, the Lich High Priest, sorry about that, and kills him. Does the last wound to the Lich High Priest. And I was amazed, because that priest, I'm pretty sure it was worth like 280 points. So me wounding it before we ran into the Skullstorm was amazing. Like, I did that wound, he ran in and died. So after the combat, I'm glad I did that combat, because I lost a 185 point hero, and he lost a 100 point hero and a 280 point lord. So that's 380 to 185. So I just gained 200 points on him in that combat. And after all said and done, because of the crazy ending, I came back to score 30 more points than my opponent. I was like jumping up off the wall here, because just how crazy this game ended. I thought totally after the Slan and Temple Guard got blown up that I had no chance at all. But I stuck in there, I came back, and we made this game a 10-10 draw. And that was a victory for me, and I bet it felt like a loss for my opponent. But yeah, it was a really good game. The last few turns he rolled really poorly, and I was rolling really, really good, even though I had no magic. But yeah, those Tomb Kings, they can bring a hurtin'. I know I did most of the hurtin' on those Temple Guard myself, but so much magic with the Tomb Kings, it's crazy. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.